It then happened that many months went by, and I saw that this monitor lizard, it was using me. I was unable to go to work. If I wanted to go to work, then that monitor lizard would stop me from going to work, and my family was starving, and I was now a big thief in the village. I was busy stealing people's chicken, and people didn't even know who the thief was. I grew tired and I said, so what is the purpose of me having a Tokoloshe when the Tokoloshe can't even provide anything for you? It is better that I just dump this thing. So one day, when this monitor lizard asked for some food for me, and to be particular, it wanted some fish, I then said, you know where the river is. Why don't you find your way to the river? Go there and catch some fish. I am tired. I am tired being sent to the river, spending the whole day not eating anything, just waiting to catch fish. And if you only wanted a single fish a day, it was better. But you want a bucket full of fish. I am tired. I am tired. My children are starving. I am starving. Yet you keep on demanding all of these things from me. If you want chicken, our neighbor has chicken. Go there and take the chicken. I am tired. Then that monitor lizard disappeared, and I never saw it for many years. I then said, fine, let me start living my normal life again. I then went to the capital city and I started hustling. When I was in the city, I was selling this other drink. It is a fruit juice that is made here in Zim. It is called Cascade. So I was selling those Cascade, even though the profit was not that huge, but I was able to take care of my family. Regularly, I would send my wife some money. Life, I can say at that time, it was simple. Yes, I was poor, but life was good. Then one day, my brother, there was this other man who stopped me because they wanted to buy a casket. So I then stopped my bicycle, and after opening up my bicycle, my brother, when I looked inside that big cooler box, I saw that there was a monitor lizard that was there on top of the fruit juices that I was. When I saw that monitor lizard, and when I looked up, I then saw that the man who had requested to buy a fruit juice, he was no longer there. He had disappeared. I then knew that everything that was happening, it was spiritual. I then said that this thing, it is going to give me a lot of trouble. Let me return back to that traditional healer before she dies, so that I can give her back her things. So I then returned back home to Mutari. I didn't stay for a very long time. I only slept for one night, and I crossed over into Mozambique. I then told her that I was tired of her ungrateful Tokoloshe. All that I wanted her to do was to take her back her Tokoloshe. She said, it is fine. I am willing to take back my Tokoloshe. I will do anything for my Tokoloshes that I give out to people. But there are some conditions. You cannot take something from a shop, then you go and you use it. And after using it, you return back with it. There are some things that are needed to be checked on that item that you are returning before one accept it back. I said, well, you can have a look at your Tokoloshe, because as far as I know, I have been feeding this your ungrateful thing with meat each and every day. She then called that lizard, and when she called that lizard, she started laughing. She and her assistants, they started laughing, and she said, you see, I cannot accept this thing. I said, why can't you accept this thing? She said, where am I going to put it? She then opened up this other wooden drawer that was inside a consulting room, and I saw a lot of glass bottles, you know, those mayonnaise bottles. So inside those empty mayonnaise bottles, there were a lot of different creatures. Inside those mayonnaise bottles, I even saw people's head. It seemed as if those people, maybe after they had died, their head had been cut off from their bodies. But I don't know how she had managed to squeeze a human head inside a mayonnaise glass bottle. Some of them, they had snakes. Some of them had those monitor lizards. And she said, what do you see? I said, I can see that you have different items inside those bottles. And she said, can you see that monitor lizard? I said, yes. And she said, when I gave you your monitor lizard, how big was it? I then pointed at that glass bottle, and I said it was big as that, it was as small as that one. And she said, right, now that you want me to take my child back, where am I going to place it? Because she is supposed to stay inside this glass bottle, and I cannot manage to fit her in because she is fat now. So return back to your house before I curse you. I then returned back to Zim, and that monitor lizard, my brother, as I was walking through the villages and as I was passing through the Zim Mozambican border, because we passed through this other mountain where there is a narrow bridge, I could actually see that monitor lizard as it was following me. Even though at that time there were some people that I was walking with, they didn't even see that there was a monitor lizard that was busy following me. Finally, when I had arrived in my village, then that monitor lizard disappeared. From there on, it started appearing to me, usually at night. Then it will tell me that it wants a husband, since it is a female. So it wants to mate, because time for it to mate, it had come. So when animals wants to mate, they are very demanding. So I said, where am I going to get a male monitor lizard? It then said that no, it does not mate with its own kind, but it mates with a human being. I got the shock of my life. I said, it is fine, just tell me the person that you want to mate with. Then it gave me a name, and the name that it gave me, it is the name of that young brother of mine whom I had left there in South Africa. This thing, it then started telling me that it wanted me to call my young brother so that we can do a ritual ceremony whereby I will have it get married to my young brother. I didn't have any choice at all, my brother, because I was now stuck with this Tokoloshe. My young brother, I spoke with him and he kept on complaining, and he said that he does not know what to do because South Africa is not treating him good. So I said, how about I sent you some money, even though I didn't have any money at all, but I was just speaking with him, and he said, yes, my brother, if you sent me some money, at least I can return back home. Maybe God will bless me around this time. So I then sold one of my livestock, and I then sent my young brother and his wife so that they can come here to Zim. When they came here to Zim, I then went out and I bought a trousers and a shirt and some shoes for him and a cap. This is what the monitor lizard had told me. The monitor lizard had told me that as long as he was going to accept that gift, it meant that he had agreed to get married to that monitor lizard. So after he had accepted that monitor lizard, he then started having a spiritual wife, even though he didn't understand what was going on. The spiritual wife then started to destroy his marriage with his wife. So the wife then spoke with some of the women whom she had met there in Burgersfort. So she then ran away from my young brother, and she came there to Burgersfort there in South Africa, and she started staying there. After my young brother found out that the wife had returned back to South Africa, he then went back to South Africa in search of his wife because he was feeling heartbroken. He then went there to Burgersfort and he started staying again with his wife. And at that time, my brother, he started operating in the illegal environment whereby he was now an illegal miner. What he didn't know is that he was now husband to a spiritual wife, and I could actually remote control him. Whatever he would be doing, I could see it. Whenever he would try to go and get some prayers, I would make sure that him and his wife, they would fight a lot so that they would never get those prayers, or the prayers would not work. I still remember this other time they had gone to this other church, which is a white garment church. There was a man that was a prayer. There was a man who was a prophet, but he was an honest prophet. And at the time when they went there, that monitor lizard then told me and showed me in a vision everything that was happening. So usually in this vision, what happens is that if any of my relatives will be going to receive a consultation, usually I'll be there with them seeing everything that will be happening. That is what happened. But when I arrived at that prophet's home, I could not get inside. So what they were told, I didn't even know. And the prayers that were given, they seemed to be very powerful. after they had gotten out of that prophet's house, when they were returning back to their home, I knew that if they were going to use those prayers, then their lives were going to change, and that monitor lizard was going to demand something from me. So the only way that I could make them not to use those prayers was to make sure that they had to fight. So as they were walking back to their house in the location where they were staying, I started whispering a lot of words into their ears so that they can fight. This is what happens usually if it is a couple that is being used by demons. They can start to have a small argument. The argument that they had on that day is that the woman, the wife to my younger brother, she then said that she was feeling really thirsty. So they then asked for water at this other house, and after they had been given the water, it was a man who gave the water to my younger brother's wife. And since my younger brother was having a spiritual wife, it was easy for him to have that spirit of quarreling with his wife. So when he was walking, those words kept on coming into his mind like, why did your wife choose this house to ask for water? Maybe she is in love with that man who gave her the water. So they started fighting along the way. They started insulting each other. And by the time that they arrived at their house, which they were renting at, then they didn't even use those prayers. After they had started fighting on that day, they ended up beating each other, and my younger brother ran away, and my younger brother then became an illegal miner. After that, my younger brother was always followed by that spirit until the day he died. So when they were digging for chrome, usually what they were doing in the first days, they would be digging very small tunnels because they didn't want a lot of people to suspect that they were digging for chrome, because my younger brother, he was amongst the first ones that started digging up for the chrome. So they were digging really small tunnels. Usually these small tunnels, they were very small, whereby there was not even space for you to turn around in the event that there was something bad that was going to happen in that tunnel. After digging that very narrow tunnel, at the end of the tunnel, when they would find out that now they have reached a rock whereby there is chrome, they would dig a little bit of a bigger tunnel so that they can have space to work and to turn around. And when you are climbing out of that tunnel again, there is no space for you to turn around. If anything falls in that tunnel, it is going to strike you and you are going to die. So my younger brother, when he entered into this other tunnel, he was all alone. Usually they were going underground in groups, but on that day, since he was being controlled by the spirit of the Tokoloshe, it then seduced him to go underneath the ground because it gave him a dream. And in that dream, he was seeing one of my ancestors, but it was not my ancestor. It was actually that Tokoloshe that had managed to imitate the voice of our ancestor. Then our ancestor approached him in the dream, and it told him that it was time for him to become wealthy, and our ancestor wanted to give him the wealth that was underneath the earth. So he then went into that tunnel all alone. So this was a new tunnel that they were still digging up. So usually what they used to do is that they would go into the forest, cut out some large tree branches, and after cutting up those large tree branches, then they would make them to be the pillars. In the mines, usually they use very strong pillars, but since these ones they were doing it illegally, they would just find some strong tree branches and they would make them the pillars so as to sustain that tunnel so that it won't crumble down. The last thing that happened is that one of the people that he was working with, who also comes from the same area where we comes from, but they were not in the same syndicate. He was in a different syndicate. So usually when you are in another syndicate, you do not care about the other syndicate. Actually, they hate each other because they are in dangerous competition. When that man saw my younger brother going into that tunnel, he didn't want to stop him because he thought that maybe he would fight with him. So he just stopped him. So he didn't stop my younger brother, and he went back to sleep. So that is the last person who saw my younger brother going into that small tunnel. Then they heard a strange sound that happened in that tunnel. And when all the syndicates woke up and when they went to that place where there was that small tunnel, they saw that the tunnel, it had crumbled down and there was no way for them to reach where my younger brother was in time. So they tried digging and they tried digging, but unfortunately they could not find my younger brother's body because there was a lot of dust that was coming out, and they said that there was also dangerous gas that was being produced out of that small tunnel. So they were afraid, since they didn't have any proper equipment, they just said, okay, let us wait for tomorrow. And when tomorrow came, there was a lot of disagreement amongst the syndicates. Some of the syndicate were saying, what if we find his body? What are we going to do with this body? We are supposed to report the body, so we cannot do that. So they started fighting amongst the syndicates. That is the story that we were told by that man who used to dig up for chrome in that area there in Burgersfort. When we were told this story, I just pretended as if I was heartbroken for my mom, but I was not heartbroken at all because I knew what had happened. Years and years passed, my brother. That Years and years passed, my brother. I made money, but not a lot of money. Recently, what happened is that the money that I had made, it started to disappear. As for the livestock that I managed to buy with that money that I had, one day I had told my son to go with the cattle to the grazing field. Then my son, he got so sick. I think that it was the Tokoloshe that wanted to give me a message. I woke up, I then went to the cattle kraal. I opened up for them. Then I started heading them to the place where we have I started heading my cattle towards the grazing land. Whilst I was there, I then started feeling very sleepy and I searched for this other tree in a space whereby I knew that a snake was not going to bite me. So I just slept underneath that tree whilst I was listening to the FM radio station on whilst I was listening to the radio on my phone. Whilst I was fast asleep, I then had a dream and I saw that same monitor lizard, but it then transformed himself and it became that woman that I once saw. And when I opened my eyes, I then saw that this thing, it was happening in real life. It then pointed its finger towards my livestock. When I looked at my cattle, my brother, I didn't see cattle at all. I saw baboons. It then said, look at the cattle. They are your cattle. I said, no, I see baboons. It then said that, yes, they are baboons, but to other people, when they look at your cattle, they only see cows, but these are baboons. This is what I have been saying for the past 2 years after your brother is passed away. I said, so why are you seeing baboons and why are you showing me these baboons? Then the Tokoloshe said that the money that I have been giving you, it is not real money. It is only real money to other people. So when you have been going around buying your livestock, I have been going into the mountains and I have been getting some baboons and transforming those baboons so that they can become like cattle. I said, what do you mean? Then the Tokoloshe said that I do not have any strength anymore to sustain this. Please give me blood. So, my brother, this is the situation that I am currently facing. This Tokoloshe is now demanding more blood. It said that if I give it blood, it is going to try as much as it can to give me more livestock. It said that it is not a Tokoloshe that has the ability to give me lots and lots of money, but it will try this time around as long as I am willing to give it more blood. I don't know amongst my relatives which one amongst my relatives that I am going to sacrifice this time around, but I do not want to sacrifice any of my relatives again because I have grown tired of all of this sacrifice. It is now the second time that is demanding blood from me, and now that it told me that all the cattle that I thought I had, they are not real cattle, but they are just baboons, which means that even if I die, then all of those cattle, they are going to be transformed and they will become baboons again, and they would return back to the mountains. So what would I have done? What kind of fortune am I going to leave for my children? Baboons that look like cows? No, I am not willing to do that anymore. So I am stuck. If there is anyone who is willing to come to my home, please tell them to come to my home so that they can rescue me from this Tokoloshe. Oh, dear listeners, right there was a message that we received, and we had to give you this translation.